Welcome to Female Fluence. We are a place of women empowering women. This is a safe environment where females are not judged nor afraid to flourish. My goal is to help you live an energized life of balance, whether as a mom, a wife, or in your profession. It is time to have self-worth and self-compassion. Live in the present moment and surround yourself with only healthy connections. So join me, Promash Shur, a woman empowerment life coach, an educator, and a mother of three, to help take you on a journey of true identity and inspiration. Every behavior or action you engage in regularly becomes a habit, whether it's just having your morning coffee as soon as you get up or brushing your teeth before bed. Some habits promote physical and mental wellness, while others may negatively impact your daily life. With some effort, however, it's possible to actually change habits that no longer serve you and create new ones that actually do. Now, what's the connection between the subconscious mind and habits? You can train your subconscious to replace unwanted habits with desired ones. Habits significantly influence your behavior and can impact your life. When your habits actually align with how you want to live, they have a positive impact. However, being stuck in habits you would rather avoid can have negative consequences in your life. What if changing your way of thinking could change your life? Just think about that. By altering your mindset, you can see changes in your attitude and behavior, leading to a more fulfilling life. Your thoughts are incredibly powerful. They can affect your mood, your behavior, and overall the outlook of your life. But they can also be overridden with practice. Many people are actually unaware of the power of their thoughts. They go through life reacting to events without realizing the influence of their mindset. One of the most disappointing things you can actually do is believe that you're just a certain way and there's nothing you can do to change it. This fixed mindset is a major obstacle for many people to succeed. We must be aware of how thinking habits develop to help quickly make sense of things, but they can sometimes lead us astray. Being mindful of these habits allows us to challenge them and choose more constructive thought patterns. My guest today is Amy Kemp, a successful entrepreneur and certified business coach. She has impacted countless clients through personalized coaching services. As a certified habit finder coach, Amy has guided more than 300 female business leads in a transformative program where she helps participants replace detrimental thought patterns with actual healthier alternatives. With the recent launch of her book, which I have right here, I See You, a guide for women to make more, have more, and be more without more work. I love that. Amy invites readers to delve into her insights and principles by illustrating that by altering one's mindset, individuals can achieve remarkable success and wealth without enduring unnecessary struggle or strain. Amy, I feel privileged to have you as a guest on Female Fluence today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So let's first start by revisiting the pivotal moments in your life and experiences that influenced your current self, and how do you believe those early chapters of your life actually shaped the person you are today?
Being raised by a mom who read us books and who put lots of books in front of us, all kinds of books. I remember her encouraging me to read things that were even probably beyond my age or my reading ability. I remember her reading to us. I just remember that books were a way that I could go places and learn things without ever leaving the room. And so I learned that from a very, very young age. And I think that any person who endeavors to write a book, when you write it, you realize it's just really all the books you've ever read mixed up and run through your own filter and then put back into the world.
That's
They
true.
were or like mashes it up and then comes out differently. So that was one thing definitely was just always appreciating and honoring and respecting the written word and books themselves. I think some of my experiences early in life as an athlete were really informative as well, some positive and some not. I learned some really great get up, you go to practice when you don't feel like it, and when you do, kind of
Yeah.
lessons from sports. I think I also learned some things in that arena that were harmful or damaging in that, like, your performance became your value.
Right, right.
Had to kind of pull apart through the years and separate. But that was playing basketball at the college level, and really being in an excellent kind of championship program was very formative. And then I would say the last thing that came to mind was the journey of entrepreneurship.
I'm
Oh, goodness.
sure.
If you want to know every unhealthy habit of thinking that exists in your brain, then you should just go ahead and become an entrepreneur. Because it
All that
is,
self-doubt, right? It's like, am I really doing this? Can I actually do this? Yeah,
I
that's a
always think maybe they were always there and underwater, and this just brings it rushing to the surface. And sometimes that feels like, oh, then why did I do this? I should just push it all back down. But I actually feel like that's probably the greatest gift of entrepreneurship is that you get to encounter those unhealthy habits of thinking. You get to actually look them in the face and say, what are you? And do you belong? And do I believe this? And then you get to pick and choose which things serve you and which don't. So yeah, that definitely has been the thing that has been the most refining is just owning a business, growing a business. It has been absolutely transformational.
actually I feel such deep alignment with what you said earlier with the books because I am an avid reader and I love to read. And I feel like there was this one teacher that made such a difference and just brought, gave me the books and just pushed me. And that has changed my life because with everything that I do, it's like it's about reading and I really enjoy it. And it really does take you somewhere else. And then from books that you learned, like this one, you feel like, oh my gosh, I just got so much information that I can, relate to my life. And then I'm hoping that because I really tried to push my kids and I've always had books everywhere. So I'm hoping that one day one of my kids will say something like you said. I mean, I was reading to them when they were, when they were not even born, like in my belly from, all the time. And I really hope, I mean, that they can take that, even if one of them and just uses it. Because right now it's hard, I feel like, with the world of technology you don't really find, I mean, even I'm okay with them not even reading a physical book at this point, as long as it's
Same.
just something
Yeah,
different than the
same.
TikTok and all that stuff. But anyways, so now let's actually dive into your new book, which has been released. So here we have here. I love the long title, and we're gonna talk about that too. Who did you write this book for?
Oh, it's my favorite question. Because I think that's a critical piece of this book is that it really was written for someone and not about something. I was speaking to a specific reader, and that is the woman who is overwhelmed by the demands of her life and work, the combination of those things, and feels like if I could just work harder, I think I just need to work harder. I would have more income, more influence, more impact. And what she realizes is that she can't really work any harder, and that moving forward is going to take something different. And it kind of the core message of the book is you can't outwork your thought habits. And so the person I wrote it for is that woman who has worked hard. She has built something, she's accomplished some things, but to get to the next place, it's going to require something different. She can't work any more or any harder. So
I love
it was
that. I
really,
mean,
It was
Realistically,
really
there's not enough
interesting.
hours in the day, right, to work any harder. There's no more time.
100%. And I had a call this morning actually with the prospective client, and we were talking about this very thing. She said, well, she's built a really successful career by overworking, just nose to the grindstone, 12-hour days, plowing through, pleasing everyone, being the best, all of that. And she's gotten to a point where it's not working anymore. She's not moving forward and she can't work anymore. She's exhausted. And so it's like, well, wait, but I thought that was what I was supposed to do. And it usually hits around like late 30s, 40s, where all of a sudden you can't, you don't have the capacity to work any more hours, but you may need more income or you want more income or more influence or impact. But that same way of getting it is no longer going to get you there. So that's my person that I wrote the book for.
Okay. Very nice. And then what about the title? What does the
Mhm.
title mean? A guide for women to make more, have more, be more without more work. I see
Yeah.
you. Love it.
Well, can I tell you the story? I'll tell you the story from
Sure, of
the
course.
intro because I think that's really important to get the feeling of the book. So I had met a woman at a networking event very briefly, and I just had that little spark of, oh, I would love to know her more. And so I reached out to her, invited her to coffee. I had really had no reason. I just thought she was cool. And so we met for coffee and she shared for about an hour. And this is someone in our community who sits at important tables. She makes some pretty big decisions, well known, and very busy family life. Seems like from the outside, she's got it all together, just really competent and confident. So she tells me her story, and we're almost like it's almost an hour. And she stops and sort of brusquely and abruptly says, why did you invite me here? And I I didn't even hesitate. I just looked her right in the eye and said, because I see you. And she started to weep, just like put her head in her hands and cried. And she, I let her, it was a long time. It was awkward and uncomfortable.
Right.
But then
Yeah.
she sat up and she wiped her eyes and she kind of arranged herself and she said, thank you. So few people do. And there's this person who everybody sees her all the time, but no one really sees her. No
Hmm.
one really sees her level of exhaustion and overwhelm and the demands and the isolation of her leadership role and the pressure of leading in this space and then coming home and leading. And that's the inspiration for the title is that my reader doesn't need a bunch of quick tips and tricks. She she's already read all of those books.
Yes.
What she needs is to feel understood and seen. She needs her experience to be put into words and acknowledged. Um,
Acknowledge is so huge. I mean, just like when you were telling the story, I mean, I felt like I was going to cry because I think so many of us women have actually experienced the same. We're all that woman in the coffee shop with you, where we are doing 1,000 things and we have it all and we look like we have it all and put together. But sometimes we feel so invisible. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to this because first of all, because you're doing so much, it's expected of you. Everybody thinks, "Oh, well, she can do it. She knows how to do it." And so it just becomes on autopilot and it's like and you feel like, "Well, I've always done it, so I have to continuously do it." And so it's just the day in, whether it's at work, with friends, with family, within wherever environment you are, there has been times where I would be like, I just feel invisible. Like I've done so much, but am I really here? I don't think I'm here. And just having something like this, where it's like, I see you, those are three such powerful words. And I just love that title.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that title. And I'm really glad it actually is interesting. The publishing company did not want that title, and I fought for it. They wanted to make the title be about me. They wanted to centralize me as like the expert. And I
Yeah.
kept saying, no, this book is not about me. This book is for my reader. This book is about her. And so that was a really interesting conversation. And I really stuck to it. I'm glad I did. And they actually agreed by the end.
I'm glad you did too. You knew it, you're
Yeah.
intuitive, so you knew.
Mhm.
Why are thought habits so important? And what, because I don't think I'd ever heard of a habit finder coach until I learned about you and read your book. I was like, what is that? Like, this sounds so interesting to me. So, can you tell us what this is and what are these thought habits that are so important?
I would love to. Habits of thinking happen at a subconscious level, right? Most of our thoughts are happening at a subconscious level every single day. There is an assessment tool called the Habit Finder, and you can take it for free on my website anytime you want to. So you get the results right away and everything. But the we have a lot of assessment tools right now in the world that ask a series of questions and then group you and say, this is your personality, these are your strengths, this is your, and all of them are exceptionally valuable. This is just a very different, it's almost like apples and oranges.
Mhm.
This tool says, these are the risk levels that you are going to fall into these particular subconscious habits of
Okay.
thinking. So let me give you an example to bring some concreteness to it. One of the habits of thinking that I see a lot with women is an obligation cycle where it starts with this habit of thinking that says, I have to, I need to, I should. I have to, I need to, I should. You can think about this. I need to go to the gym. I should be going to the gym. I have to go. And then you actually get really exhausted. And so you rebel and you just say,
Forget
forget it. I'm
it.
not, I'm not going to the gym. I am not, you become a
Mhm.
teenager into yourself.
Yes.
I am not doing that. And then you kind of feel really like thinking about quitting the whole thing. Like, why did I even do this? This is dumb. Why did I have these kids? Why did I get this job? Why did I all that, right?
Yes, yes, and yes.
And then you feel guilty because you're feeling that way. And so then you recommit and then you head right back into the have to, need to, and should. Well, that whole cycle is happening and you're not consciously thinking of that. It's happening all the time, right? And once I bring it to your awareness, if you even just start paying attention today about how many times you say, I have to, I need to, I should, you'll be astonished. So the assessment is measuring the level of risk you have to follow that groove in your brain very easily. It's a well-worn path.
Okay.
So if you start leaning in that direction, you're just going to go there. Unless, think about it like in our airports when there's high risk. So let's say there's high risk of a terrorist attack or something. We go to high attention.
Mhm.
Okay, if I know it's a risk, I'm going to pay more attention. Oh, there was that thought. I'm going to catch it and replace it with I get to, I choose to, I want to. So imagine, like in the creative process, let's say you're creating a business, there's a natural resistance to growing a business. It takes energy and time, and it's kind of like climbing up a hill.
Right,
If you add this subconscious thought habit to it, it's like strapping on a 100-pound backpack
right.
and making the same journey. You still have to, there it is.
There you
You,
go.
right? Like you're still going to take every single step along the way, but now you've added this energy of
Yeah,
heaviness to it.
heaviness.
So the subconscious habit of thinking is draining
That's
some
a
of
great
your,
analogy. Yeah.
yeah, it's draining some of your precious emotional energy. And we don't want to lose any of that to some like waste it. I want to use all the energy to just take the steps that it takes to create the business. So that's an example of a subconscious habit of thinking that you don't really know is happening, but it's affecting almost every minute of your day.
So how
And
can
your
we refrain like something like I want to go to the gym. How
Mhm.
can we like retrain our minds so it doesn't become such a burden and we don't get stuck in this like cycle constantly?
I know. Well, I wish I had a magic wand.
Come on, Amy, I know you do. Share it
I
with
wish
us.
it I wish it was fast. I wish it was like a
So it's a process, right?
okay, yes. And maybe this actually will lead me to talk a little bit about um, in chapter 10, it's called surrender to structure. The places where we resist the structures that we know would help us. So, for example, going to the gym. When there's something we know we should do, but we just aren't doing it. And we even like have read all of the books about it and we've maybe done it for a period of time but not stuck with it or like in any area where you do that and it's usually health, money, time management, growing
Yes.
a business, relationship, there's those 5 areas. Right there where that resistance is where my work comes in. I love that place. Where are you resisting the structure? Because if you stop there and dig down a little bit deeper, there's always unhealed pain. So I had a client who was on stage, we'll just like do vague for her accomplishments.
Okay.
And something happened that was really humiliating. And she left the stage and like hid from the stage after this event happened. And she gained about 50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And she knew I should get back like to going to the gym. I should be eating. I need to, right? But no amount of pushing through or discipline or punishment or strategy or system was going to help, right?
Mhm.
Until we dealt with the fact that there was a lot of unhealed pain around that thing that
The
happened.
embarrassment, the pain.
And so until that was acknowledged and the emotions of that were released, until she went and did some therapy work around it, she couldn't embrace the structure. There was no amount of pushing through that was going
Mhm.
to sustain it. And so there's this very compassionate place of when you're in that place of resistance, not just working harder and berating yourself and disciplining yourself through it because you won't sustain it, but pausing and just acknowledging, like, what is the source of the resistance? And usually you can't get there on your own. Like
Right.
in my areas where I've hit that, I had to have the help of someone to get me there, to walk with me there, to even find the connections because sometimes it's pretty deeply buried, but it's like you're walking on the beach with the thing that finds
The, the,
the metal detector
the metal
thing and
detector.
where you see the resistance to the structures that just seem to elude like time and time again you try and you try and you try if you just pay attention and say beep 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 pause let's dig down there like what's under there
Right.
because the embracing of structure comes from a place of like self-love of feeling worthy of being taken care of always before she took care of her body, not out of a sense of needing it to be a certain size or anything like that. She did it because she loved herself,
Yes. Yeah.
you know? So there's this real like, sometimes people will hire me to like fix this external thing. And what they learn is that like that changing the behavior will be fleeting if we don't get to the underneath stuff
Yeah, the
first.
main root of the problem. Amy, it's really interesting. I mean, I've done many, many interviews, and every single one, I would say, the main thing, one of the main messages is we really need to work on the root of the problem, that unhealed trauma, it's like with everything, with the success of our business, trying to lose weight, healing our relationship with our kids, with our parents, with, I mean, every single thing, like chronic pain in your body, it always goes back to that. So that this is such a big message. It's like for those of you listening, you have to really see if I'm in the same, just like you're saying, having the same habits, the same pattern. Why is it I'm feeling like this? Really dig into it. Stop pushing it away and just pretend that it's not there. Or maybe because it's something that happened when you were a child many years ago. It doesn't matter. And unless you deal with these emotions, they are not going anywhere. They're going to find their way somehow in your life, in your body, because you haven't dealt with them. So that's just incredible to me because it's like every person I interview, we go back to again to the same exact concept. So I
I
just wanted
know.
to add that in there. It's incredible how important that is.
It's so true.
So now, let's see. You also stated in your book, which I really liked, it said, work less and play more. What
Mhm.
is scheduled free play? I felt like a kid. I'm like, okay, I need to schedule free play time. How do I go about doing this?
It's my favorite thing. I'm actually leaving right from here for some of this myself. I've been
There you
looking
go.
forward to it all day. I had kind of a like marathon day, but I'm heading up to the city tonight to with a group of friends. One of my friends is Puerto Rican. She makes this Puerto Rican dish, and so we're going to her home. She's making us this meal, just girlfriends,
Oh,
and
fun.
I have been looking forward to it all week. It's my favorite meal, and like I'm just so excited about it. So guilt-free. Okay, so scheduled guilt-free play is making sure that in your calendar you have scheduled time where you are doing things that give your brain a break. And for different people, this is different. For me, sitting and doing nothing is not really recharging or relaxing.
Mhm.
But tonight, for example, authentic, real conversation with friends, or
Right.
um, for me, always playing pickleball, yoga is big. Things where when I'm doing it, I am not even able to think about work or the other things in my life. Sometimes we try to limit our work. I'm going to work less, I'm going to work fewer hours. And yes, there is truth to that. But for most of us, the best way to sort of increase the quality of our work and get more creative, inspired ideas and have a higher quality of work is
Right.
to schedule in the guilt-free play. I require a once a month adventure, uh, something that is a little bit bigger. We went to see The Price is Right live in Chicago a
Oh,
couple weekends
fun.
ago, which was a little bit like a frat party I wasn't sure I needed to go to. I liked the dinner before better than the
Right, right, right,
so it
right.
was still a fun experience. We got the name tags and everything. And then we're going to Sedona in April. We have a fun girls' trip with my cousins and aunts planned. We're going to go to the south part of Utah and do some hiking. Oh, this is really fun too. We're that weekend, everybody, we did a name draw, and everybody has to buy a phone case for the person's name they drew. So you get their phone size and you try to buy them the most obnoxious phone case
Oh,
you
how
can
fun.
find.
That's a fun idea.
And they
And now
have
are
to,
they required to use it for that trip or?
yes. So the whole weekend they have to like have this
I
phone case.
like that.
Like,
I might steal that from you. That's a fun idea.
so fun. So just things like that, where when you even talk about it, you can feel my energy rise.
Energy rising, yes.
Yeah. So what happens is that when you have scheduled guilt-free play to look forward to, you tend to do a higher quality of work because you're in a higher energy, right? So you do a higher quality of work, and then when you're playing, you don't feel guilty. And so then while you're playing, that's when the creative part of our brain is lit up,
Mhm.
which leads to these solutions where before we maybe only saw the obstacle, or it leads to a creative, inspired idea. I was getting a massage the other day. I'm not kidding you. I just like, poof, an idea popped into my head. I was like, that's it. I've been waiting for that, right?
There you
Uh,
go.
that's what happens when you play. And then that, of course, leads you back to like the scheduled guilt-free play. But I just find that we don't prioritize it. We don't make it, we're waiting. I'm not sure what we're waiting for.
Waiting. Yes, waiting. It's like I mean, I know a lot of friends that they have like, schedule vacation days that they haven't used and they're just exactly what are we waiting for? Because you really don't know what happens, right? Like what's gonna happen the next day. So I feel like, yes, you're right. Like, we make so many notes in our calendar. It's like doctor's appointments, and I need to do this in the house and all that to-do list. So we have to really, I think once you write it in, that from this time to this time,
Yeah,
and it doesn't always have to be some,
yeah,
amazing, retreat or trip or a massage. It can just be something like, I'm going to read my book that, that like I have so many books for just relaxation that's like sitting on a shelf. And I'm like, I just want to go sit in my backyard, have a cup of tea, and just read with no interruption, nothing, and not feel bad about all the things I can be doing instead. Right. So
that's the thing,
something
right? Like
simple as that.
yes, the guilt-free
Yeah.
playtime.
The guilt-free is the key because
I
that's the
know.
problem. I think a lot of the times too, especially if we're at home or if we want to try to do like a staycation or just at
Yeah,
home is like a lot of us work at home. So it's
I
really
know.
hard to be like, okay, I'm at home and I'm not working, but I
Yeah,
won't do the laundry. I won't organize the cabinet. It's
yeah.
like you have to do it.
And some of mine too, I mean, I think it's visiting, well, they've since passed, but visiting my husband's grandparents in assisted living. I loved that. I loved hearing their stories. It was an hour. I would go over there, right? Or playing cards or
Yeah.
a game. We've been playing Yahtzee lately. I don't know why, but I
That's
just
fine.
that kind of thing that it is real connection.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
usually without a screen. Though I will say sometimes a really great Netflix show does fill my cup. I
Yeah.
just watched One Day, which was amazing on Netflix. I completely binged it. It was so
Wait,
delightful.
that's a series, right? Is that the one with the boy, I forget. I think my daughter was telling me. I think I started
Yeah,
watching a little bit
it's
of it.
like they show this couple. Well, at first they're just friends, but on one day of the year,
And it keeps
over
going back, right? It's like from graduation day, right? So
yes,
I
like
did start
on
watching it. Yeah.
through adulthood,
Yeah.
basically, and it traces their relationship through this. It's the same day every year,
And
but
did you
it's
finish it? Yeah, because it was a
I
little
know.
confusing. It kept going back and forth. Me and my daughter and I were watching. I'm like, wait, they were in college and now they're older and now he has a child. So okay.
I
I haven't finished it
devoured
yet.
it. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. See, sometimes that's okay too. It's like you just need
totally.
to
Mhm.
relax and just
Or
enjoy.
fun books.
Yeah.
Like you said, oh
Yes.
my goodness, I've been loving a few different books. I just read The Women. Oh, that's a great
Oh,
book.
Christina Hanna, that's one of my favorite authors. I went to her book signing. Incredible. I haven't started that book yet, but she's incredible.
I am not the same person I was before I read that book. That was just a deeply meaning, but it's fun
Yeah.
and not I'm not learning. I don't have to,
Right? Because we
I
don't know. I mean, I love self-help books. I
me
love
too.
them. But sometimes we need to just read a book just because we want to read it for fun. And we're not taking notes and highlighting and trying to like, take in all the information and learning. So yes, I agree. I have piles. I have the self-help and then the fun books,
Me too.
like
And I
easygoing.
actually read them in different locations. Like I have a different chair I sit in when I read one
Oh, that's
versus the other.
interesting. So
Yeah, it's funny.
kind of it's like it triggers like your memory, like, okay, this is like I have to take notes, I have to concentrate more. Very good.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
This is great for good
But
stuff.
this is what every time I talk about this, you can feel it. You can feel the energy in me. That energy attracts everything you want in your life, right? It attracts the healthy relationship. It attracts money. It attracts clients. It attracts
Yeah.
friendship. It attracts that heightened level of like joyful, sincerely rested energy that is fulfilled and content. Like that is what is the best creative energy. And so the play is actually the biggest investment I can make in my business because when I'm operating from that space, the things I want always happen.
You can manifest and it actually works.
Yes.
I mean, speaking actually of that, so like let's as we think about like our problematic thinking habits and replace them with beneficial thoughts, just like you're saying, there's a flow of energy and creativity, especially for those of us that are very spiritual. We really, really feel that. So how can we connect to this source so that our main job is to allow this incredible energy to flow through us so that that magic of creativity can begin? How can we do that? Because that's
Oh,
that's that's the place where we want to be, right? We want to try to be, and we want to remember, like, oh, I remember how I felt when I was at this level without going down. And of course, there's the things that blocks this flow of energy that we can talk about next. Because if we once we open up the connection between ourselves and the energy, then we're at a
oh.
different level. That's the key.
And it's magical
It
when
is
someone does
magical.
it. I mean, okay, well, let me first go through this process of just this connection you're talking
Mhm.
about because I think we forget it. We know it to be true and we forget it, which is, and I this is in chapter 5 of my book is called "Can I Get a Little Woo Woo," which
And
always
I'm so
makes me
impressed that you like remember all your the chapters and what each is. Because I think after a while I'd be like, oh, I don't remember
oh,
anymore.
telling you. Okay, I work with people of all different faith backgrounds, and so I'm always cautious to not use language that is exclusionary or like that would leave someone out. But I've never had a client who disagreed with these 5 like truths, which would be one, there is an unlimited source of energy and abundance that created the world we live in, that created the universe, and it's unlimited, right? And it's there. 2, we were created by that energy. We came from that source energy. 3, we are connected to it today. Our physical bodies are still connected to that spiritual energy. 4, when we open ourselves to it, the energy from that source, this unlimited, universal, bigger than you could ever imagine, flows through us and our unique gifts and out into the world. And when we do that, when that happens, we feel the most alive. Like we experience that in a way that feels like bliss, joy. It's not always, doesn't have to be heightened excitement. It can be peaceful. It can
Right.
be ease. It can be just really magical, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we get all caught up in having to create everything and we forget that our job is really to open ourselves and align with that and let it flow, allow it to flow through. So I'll give you a story that just happened yesterday that's kind of
Okay.
fun. I have a client, I have known her for a very long time. She's been wanting to make kind of a career transition, and she's been sort of in a frantic state of looking for the next thing. And there have been multiple things that have happened where she wanted to buy this building and start this business, and then it all fell apart and she was devastated. And then she wanted to do this and she was like chasing this next thing. And then she just got to a place where it was like, I'm done. I don't even know if this is real. Maybe I should just settle in and be happy, a little bit just like frustrated. And she just started to work on herself. She started to take care of some health things that had been bothering her. She started to, well, she read this book and was in one of my groups. She's just been really investing in her. Okay, now this is the crazy part. She's worked in funeral service for over 20 years and has this absolutely amazing ability to work with people who are in a lot of pain
I
and
was
like,
gonna say that's a really difficult job. Like it's a
yeah,
tough industry, right?
yeah.
That's tough.
And she's so good at it, right? She also has 5 dogs and loves the animals. All the animals, right? Okay. Out of the blue, she gets herself in alignment. She quits trying and striving and struggling. Out of the blue, she gets a call from a guy who makes, when someone is cremated, he makes glass sculptures that include the person's ashes, and they sell them at funeral homes so you can have your loved one like in a beautiful piece of art. Well, she has friends with him from years of doing business with him, and she gets this idea about like, what if I did that for people's pets? And so she reaches out and says, like, what if we made something when people have a pet and it dies and they have the ashes and they wanted this beautiful sculpture? Could we do that? And he was like, absolutely. And you can earn all the commission from it. You just send me this and he was like so open. So she then goes to the local place that does the cremation of pets, and she knows those people because of her funeral service work. This is also crazy that it could never be,
Connections, yeah.
right? They say to her, we are actually thinking about moving on from this business and we would love to sell it to you.
Wow. Oh, wow. It's
Here's this cross section of the two things that one, her experiences, her, and all of this is like the most random two things that would never, you would
never.
never, right? And again, she could never have created that. What she did do was work on healing herself, taking care of herself, and then paying attention and just responding to the inspired ideas. And then suddenly this whole thing is unraveling at such a fast pace that she's like, I never even thought of doing this, you know? And so it's just that is what happens when you align with that
Mhm.
energy and let it move through you. It's so
That is
awesome.
incredible. I even think with your story too, I thought when you said you were kind of, after you had that meeting and you were trying to figure out like how you can make more money, and you're just like, there's no time, there's no hours. How is this possible? But then you had this calling like within you that you need to work with women, you need to do this, and you have a purpose. And it's like you have a meeting with your friend, and then he's like, oh, there's an opening for this. And like it just, like it was just meant to be. When I was reading that, I'm like, this is when it's like meant to be, when everything is in alignment and you're like, you're open to it. If you're not
Yes.
open to it, it's not going to work out. But if you're actually open and you have your eyes
Yeah.
and ears and everything, and you're really aware, it can
Yeah.
happen, right?
The other thing is that what I did have in the starting of this business was clarity of what I wanted to create, which was more income with less time away from my family. I was deeply committed to that, but I didn't need to know the how. What I needed was the deep commitment, the alignment, and then to pay attention when coincidences showed up and to take action on them, even when they feel kind of scary, right? The
Right.
same with the example of my client, right? She did have a commitment to finding something new, but when she was striving for it and seeking it and struggling it and trying to build it, everything kept not working.
It didn't work.
But she did have clarity that she wanted something new. Now, I don't know how this whole thing will unfold. It's like the beginning of the story, but it's
Right.
similar to mine in that she never had thought about doing that. I had never thought about being a habit finder coach. That was not like on my radar in the least. But when it landed, all of a sudden I thought, oh, there it is. And act on it and allow it to move forward and take the next step. And I don't have to have the 5-year strategic plan. I just have to be obedient to the next step and then the next step and then the next step and the next step. So that is the creative process where when you create from that energy, people are attracted to it too because it's magical.
Yes,
So
it is.
mhm.
What do you think are some things that block this energy for us?
Mhm.
Is
um
it like self-doubt or like a part of like,
uh,
imposter syndrome or
which are all unhealthy subconscious thought habits. Yeah. I do think there are some things that block it, like physical pain, emotional pain can block it. unhealed pain of any kind can block it. You know, you don't feel good. It's really difficult
Yeah.
to experience that. And sometimes we rest from it when we're in pain and need to heal, I think also. But I do think that for most women, what I see blocking it are these deeply buried subconscious habits of thinking. Uh, Things like my value is attached to my performance. So if I don't perform well, I'm not valuable. Dangerous.
Yes, that's a very dangerous area to be.
Versus I am valuable regardless of anything about me, the way I look, the way I act, the way I perform, how much money I make. I am intrinsically whole and valuable because I am. And I can put my hands in my clay and I can work with my clay and create something with it. And that has no impact on my value. Well, that subconscious habit of thinking, like, will keep you from creating and getting your hands in your clay if it's too risky. So there is a lot of this work that I do that frees people up. Most of them are supremely talented and gifted already, but they just get this like
Didn't
noise
know
in
that.
their head
Yeah.
that gets in the way.
So realistically, I mean, a lot of it goes back to your subconscious mind, your thoughts going back to you. If, like the clients that you work with, that it's like they're trying to go back to those negative thoughts to get rid of them, to change them so they can allow that energy to flow through them so they can actually find what
Yes.
they want to do or go to
Or
the next
like
step.
the habit of thinking that allowed you to survive when you were a child, maybe, or when you were in a really difficult relationship or a difficult workplace. If you keep employing it over here in a new season, becomes um, like suffocating
Hmm.
when it's no longer needed. But when you try to, so for example, if you learned when you were growing up that you survived by making sure everyone around you is happy, and reading the room, making sure people were happy, meeting their needs, and that's how you survived.
Yep.
But then you bring that over to this workplace and you keep employing that and you keep employing that. At some point, it becomes like becomes like a noose around your neck, and it gets tighter and tighter the more
Yeah.
you use it, right? But when you start to set boundaries, that is literally like, I am going to not survive because it's so deeply embedded. And so it will flare up danger, 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 danger. That's mean. You should feel guilty. That person's unhappy. Your job is to make them happy. So we've got to really pay attention and slow down enough to notice what's going on there, to pick a different thought,
Right.
uh, and allow those feelings to process without succumbing to them.
Right. No, that's very true. I'm going to read a section. Get my glasses on. um, so here, I really resonated with this. That you said, yes, my constant availability was helping those that I lit immediately, but it was not creating independent problem solvers who could figure out issues on their own. I was their leader, but I did not have to be the only source of answers and solutions. Slowly but surely, the less I did for people, the more my business grew. And I thought this is really interesting because you stated as a leader, you do not need to be a vending machine. And I feel like a lot of times, I mean, it can be a leader or it can be a mom at home doing everything for their family, everything for their kids. We're not helping the children because they are problem solvers and they can figure it out on their own. We can give them some tools and guide them, but they can actually do it on their own. So I mean, I guess there was the question that I guess your mentor that I really liked. It said, he kept asking you this life-changing question: can you do for 100 people what you just did for that one? So can you talk about that? Why is that such a, because I thought about that. I go, that's interesting. I need to really think about that. Like, when I want to delegate or stop doing everything for
Yeah.
whoever it may be, it really changes everything.
Yeah. Well, and in business settings, a lot of times when you're a producer, let's say, and you produce and produce and produce and produce, and you get a lot of accolades and a promotion and whatever, and then you're leading people, this is where you see this show up, right? Because
Right.
you continue to do and do and do and do and do. But actually, at that point, it's a shift of slowing down and developing people, which is more about what do you think you should do? Tell me about your thinking on that. You're equipping people to solve their own problems and
Mhm.
developing people because you can only produce so much. There's
Right.
only one you. So, in any setting, there has to come a point where you're equipping people. This bleeds over into momming big time.
Yes.
I mean, I find
I
myself
think
doing,
mommy is a huge vending machine.
like, and I will tell you a funny way that I will disrupt this sometimes. I kind of tease about this in the book, but I'm not much of a cusser, but I will sometimes say, like, that is a, my son is 6'5". That is a grown ass man. Like, he is 6'5". I do not need to be doing this for him, right? Like if I say that, it kind of makes me laugh. And then I will, sort of be able to pull myself
Yes.
out of
It
it,
puts you back in
right?
perspective, like,
Yes.
okay, no, I don't need to do. How old is he?
He's 17, almost 18. And then I have a daughter who's 20. This just happened last week. She called me to see if I had booked her parking for when she came home for spring break. She flies home from college. And she's 20. And so I was like, okay, I'll get that done. And then I was like, wait a minute. I said,
You do
listen,
it.
yeah, like here's the website, and she had a couple of questions, but she's 20, that she's 6'1". She can book her own parking and be equipped to do that. I
Yes.
don't have to be the one doing it. And so there's just this constant asking of myself, am I doing for someone what they could be doing for themselves? And in doing that, am I crippling them? Am I preventing their independence and growth? Am I really just creating a cycle of dependence and then feeling resentful about it that everyone's dependent on me? So many women do that. Like they're so
Yeah.
frustrated that everyone's dependent on them, but they created it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so just peeling down, like picking the layers apart of that and just saying, like, no, these people are capable and they can fail and they can do things differently than me or not as well as me. It's okay.
I think that's such
Like,
a great tool you're giving them, whoever they may be. And then with such a great tool that you're giving yourself, because you're giving yourself the freedom of being able to dedicate that time to other things that you could be doing instead of constantly chaperoning and doing all this stuff for other people that you don't need to be doing. So I
yes.
think that's a great tool. Now, you have lots of great tools. There's another practical tool you use daily is called the 6 most important things list.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the history behind this and and why how you use it?
Yeah, of course. There's a really great story about it in the book, the origins of the list, but essentially, it's a list of 6 things that are the most important things that get done in a day. So I try to make my list, like I'm looking at my list right now for tomorrow, because today, as I was doing things, things kept coming up that would need to be done, which is just the truth of entrepreneurship. The more you do, the more there is to
Hmm.
do. So there has to be a stopping point that you create in order to have a healthy relationship with a business that you own of your own. But I think also with a career that you're working for someone else. And this is my way of knowing I have done enough. I have done the 6 most important things for the day. And I can close the door to my office and I can leave tonight and go to dinner with my friends, feeling great about what I accomplished. Now, I also will tell you, I only make a 6 things list 3, maybe 4 days a week. And I'm one of the most structured people I know. So I don't do it 7 days a week.
Okay.
Uh, a lot of people ask me, like, well, what about personal? What about this? And what about that? Okay. What I want to say is, I have no rules for you on it because it's your list. However, what do you want to create is the question. What is it that you're trying to create? I kept asking a client that this week because she kept asking me about the list. Finally, we got down to I want to make this amount of money working 30 hours a week. And you know, that was what she wanted to create. I said, okay, so what are the 6 things that you can do today that will lead you to working only 30 hours a week and earning that amount of money. And instantly she knew. These are the most important things that I would do if I wanted to be really efficient and that would move the needle and that are most important to create growth in my business or my career.
Hmm.
And it was like once she had the clarity of the things she was trying to create, then she knew what to do. So I want to really give people a lot of agency and choice in what goes on their list, but it has to stem from a place of clarity on what you want. And if there's not clarity there, then this gets a little bit murky. Well,
So
what
do
is
you
most
make it like for you personally, do you make it for the week and you kind of say by Friday, and in
no,
order for me to have like a nice relaxing weekend, and so forth, these are the things that I would like to get done. And then you divide those for like, the 3 days or whatnot, or how do you kind
you
of
could. I'm not usually that far. I'm not usually thinking that
or is
far
it just
ahead.
based on that day? Like in order for me to survive today, these are the six
It's
things I
like
need to accomplish
today. Yeah. And I do always try to have the list made before I leave my office for the next day,
next
because
day.
by the time the morning has started, it's too late.
Yeah.
That's not to say that sometimes in my morning, like reflection and journaling and quiet time, that I don't have an inspired idea that would like override something or
Okay.
change. Sometimes there's only three things on the list too. I mean, please be imperfect. Please do not get them all done every day. I mean, there are so many days I don't. But what I'm looking for is just this framework where I know that the whirlwind of running my business and doing the work of my business doesn't consume the work I do that creates growth in my business. So I want to protect about 20% of my time and energy that goes toward the things that actually create growth. And I have to protect that time from the business because the business actually just takes a lot of time and energy. So,
Oh, okay. So because
right.
if you just get so wrapped up in the business and you have no energy to invest to do the other, like the back work, right? To
Well,
help your business grow.
yeah, who is the next new client? Where is the next event that I'm going to speak at? Or like those things that I do that actually create revenue for the
Mhm.
business, the work of the business will crowd that out if I don't protect it.
Yeah.
And so I've got to really have a tool, and this tool is what has protected that for 20 years for me, is the things that are on this list are income generating, growth focused, the things I would put off and just get swallowed by email and responding in the busyness of the work itself. But I have a business where I both do the work, but I also have to be the one who's not have to. Do you see there it is?
You caught yourself.
I get to be the one who
Yeah.
creates the work also. I choose to, I want to
Mhm.
serve the people. So there's two elements of it, and this list helps protect me from that. I've seen people do it with three. I've seen lots of variations, but for whatever reason, six seems to be a good number that I can accomplish in the day, and it's not too much.
That's a great tool. Actually looked and I already printed a page just for
Oh,
me. I'm
good.
more of a paper person anyways. I mean, I use my phone kind of old school, transfer the calendar into my phone so I have it with me when I'm out and about, but I like my paper
I
schedule
mean,
and calendar where I can check it
The-
off and
yeah, it's this like
yes.
there's something about the writing of it that on paper, I think there's something chemical in our brains.
Yes, it
I don't
is. I
know,
think
but
so.
it
And
there
I think it's when you check it off too, it's like you feel really good. Like,
oh,
okay, I did this. Like it's such a good feeling to make that check.
yes, yes. And like I said, then you can go to your guilt-free play and
Yeah,
have guilt-free play because you did your stuff,
exactly.
you
You
did the
you
do.
did your assignments.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
feels good.
true. So true. Okay. So I'm going to read another section because I think this is really, really, really important is boundaries, right? So
Mhm.
living a life with healthy boundaries is full of freedom and peace. People with appropriate boundaries are clear about their values and they say no to things that don't fit with their priorities without needing to explain why or justify their choices. They tend to listen to their intuition, looking inside to make decisions and not to other people. And there's a section in your book where you I mean, you can tell the story, but you had a potential client that you could have. And I thought I was really impressed because that's how I am. Like I'll make rules and boundaries and then I'll make exceptions. And then we keep making exceptions, you keep making exceptions, and then you go back to kind of having no boundaries. So I thought it was so powerful how you said, this is a boundary I've set for myself, even though this is going to be so like this might be this much money or whatnot,
Yeah.
but so you can
So
share
hard.
that story with us. That'd be great.
Boundaries? Yeah, boundaries are a practice, daily practice. And so you don't like conquer them. It's a daily choice. But this particular situation, my I talk in the chapter about setting goals that have boundaries. We have relationships with goals, and we can't have a relationship without boundaries that is healthy. So, for example, my goal is to get paid like a CEO while working like a teacher, meaning a healthy teacher, I always have to say, like from 8 to 4, 8 to 3:30, weekends off, breaks off. I'm off next week for spring break, summer's light. I want to work in that rhythm that works really well for me. So I had a woman, she's my people. Oh my gosh, when I talked to her, I'm still sad because I knew that the work I do could serve her and she really needed it. And so we had a call. She was on board, ready to go. And she said, okay, so I'd love to schedule the first call. I just can't do anything during the day. I could meet like at 6 at night or 7. And I was like, sad. But I actually said, you know what? I'm going to need to think about this because my inclination is to say yes also, right?
Mhm.
And I've learned to just give myself an overnight. That way I make a grounded decision from a place of knowing and wholeness and not from like obligation and
Right.
just achievement and my unhealthy habits of thinking. High risk. So I slept on it and I just said to her, if I do this, I undermine the integrity of everything that I teach, and I can't coach you with any kind of authenticity. And so it's just not going to work if you can only do evenings. And so we parted ways. And it was a lot of money. I mean, it's just hard, but here's what I think happens when you do that. When you teach the world how to treat you, it treats you that way and it gives you abundantly the thing that you are protecting, right? If I had
Hmm.
violated that boundary, then I'm saying I'll accept anything.
Yeah.
And that's not who I am. My service isn't for everyone, right?
Right.
Like I serve a pocket of people. And so I have to protect that. And I have to live it, or else all of it breaks down. It just immediately breaks down. So the boundaries in those spaces we don't often talk about. We're talking more. I think we still need to talk more about relational boundaries, but the relationship we have with our work, with our businesses, and with our goals are critical in having a healthy relationship in that space.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. And I was like, this is what I have to do and not make any exceptions because when you become very strict with those boundaries, then because if you had taken that client, then the next one that came along, you're like, well, I feel bad. I made an exception for her, so I can make an exception for this one. And then, then come along, then you have no more boundaries. You're working nighttime, your hours are changed. So this is
Well, and
really.
hear your tone of voice even talking about that. It's
Yeah.
this like, "Meh,
Right. The energy
you
is
know,
being sucked out.
totally. And then it's resentment. I'm
Yeah.
resentful,
Yeah.
right? And everywhere there's resentment in your life, there's a missing boundary. You are not being clear about what you want. You are not being clear with the world about how to treat you or with people about how to treat you. And so then you allow things and then you become resentful. And like that's not an attractive energy for clients.
Yeah.
They don't want to work with people who are resentful, right?
Right.
It's not different. They are looking for something unique, something that shines brighter, something that is real and tangible and different from their experience. So, yeah.
Oh, that's very true. So lastly, I know your book is a wonderful resource, but what are the first steps we can take to increase our success while working fewer hours? But obviously, if you want all the resources, you got to get the actual book. But if you could just give us like
Yeah.
a few, just a few steps.
Yeah. Well, one, I think, and it does not have to be with me, but if you have no space where you are allowed to not be okay, finding it, seeking it out, whether that's counseling, therapy, a mentor, a friend that is safe. I think there have got to be places where people are holding space for you. And without that, we can't even be aware of our habits of thinking. We can't, we don't have a fighting chance because we have no time to reflect because
Mhm.
everything is so busy and we're just in reactive mode. So there has to be some carved out relational space where people are holding space for you. And then also, I think there's got to be time built into our days for reflection, a slowing of the pace. We've we are not doing the deeper thinking that generates the really good stuff.
Right.
We're not slow enough to hear the inspired whispers. We're not quiet enough. I was in yoga the other day and there was a girl next to me. Her energy was so frantic. Her phone, her watch was beeping and her breathing. It was just, I could feel it on her. She was not present where her feet were. It
Right.
was like I had to almost put up like a shield, right?
Right.
And I think there is this franticness that if you want to really seriously address these habits, it requires a slowness of pace.
Because then
And
you
so,
become aware, right? That this is actually happening. Because sometimes I think people are so busy and it's
yeah,
kind of like a shield where they block out, right? What's
this is
happening
a
to them,
really
or if they're
basic.
having a horrible relationship, but they're so busy they don't even have time to talk and figure out what's going on. It's the easy way out kind of a thing.
Oh,
So slowing down, I think is a very, very essential tool to
yeah,
kind of become aware, slow down, figure out what's going on with you, what's going on around you.
yeah,
Um, in summary, to enhance our approach to managing our minds, it's essential to cultivate greater self awareness, just like we were talking about. This involves really observing our mental process and thought patterns and understanding how our minds operate. Begin by actually recognizing the reoccurring patterns of thought. When you encounter a negative thought or experience distressing emotions, redirect your focus inward and examine whether any ingrained thinking habits distort your perspective. Adopting a curious mindset toward these habits can prove to be very beneficial. Consider thoughts as passing clouds and consciously choose which ones to engage with. Let's leverage the insights shared by Amy today to integrate positive thinking shifts into our daily lives, thereby steering us toward the life we aspire to create. Thank you, Amy, for being a wonderful guest on Female Fluence. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today?
well, just gratitude for reading the book to you, for being such a gracious interviewer,
Thank
and
you.
really taking that role, like honoring it, just means a lot to me. And it was really a rich, meaningful conversation because of that. So I'm grateful to you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I enjoyed having you, and I've learned a lot. And all the links will be shared in our show notes. Thank you.
Thanks, girl.
Thank you everyone for tuning in today to Female Fluence. Together we can influence and motivate other mind-like females. Your job is to feel alive, be in control, and always be true to your own self. Please don't forget to subscribe so you can continue feeling inspired. All the links and notes from this episode will be posted on my website, femalefluence.com. Don't forget to also follow me at Female Fluence on both Instagram and Facebook. Lastly, if you are in need of a woman empowerment life coach to help you identify the barriers that keep you from living the life you seek, please send an email to info@femalefluence.org. Remember, my friends, don't just exist, but live your life to the fullest. I'm your host, Pearl Mashur. Until we talk next time.